Welcome back, everybody. These are the best horror films of 1992. Let's check out what was scaring audiences worldwide in theaters, drive-ins, cable TV, and made-for-TV movies. These are the best horror movies, all the horror movies of 1992. Let's check them out. "976 Evil 2". A seemingly harmless telephone service endows an evil teacher with powers from beyond the grave. 976 Evil 2 is a classic horror film, one for the ages. Al filo del terror. A famous ventriloquist whose career is going downhill takes his anger out on his strange puppets who seem to have a life of their own. Maybe you should get a life of your own before it's too late. Alien Cubed. Returning from LB-426, Ellen Ripley crash lands on the maximum security prison Florina 161, where she discovers that she has unwittingly brought along an unwelcome visitor. Alien 3. Amityville 1992, It's About Time. An architect brings home a mysterious old clock, not knowing that it's haunted by a demonic presence of the Amityville house. Soon the clock begins to alter time and space and starts to possess members of the household. Army of Darkness. When Ash Williams is accidentally transported to 1300 AD, he must retrieve the Necromonicon and battle an army of the dead in order to return home. I love period pieces. Aunt Lee's Meat Pies. A devil-worshipping woman sends out her 4 beautiful nieces to lure men back to her place so they can be killed, ground up, and sold as meat pies. Aunt Lee's Meat Pies. Axum. Slasher horror. A weekend retreat at a remote cabin in the woods where a group of childhood pals turns into a terrifying fight for survival. Teen horror comedy slasher horror. Axum. Basket Case 3. Dwayne recovers from his delusional breakdown to find his freakish basket-bound brother, Belial, will soon become a father. Dark comedy, and horror. Basket Case 3. Bloodlust. 3 vampires wander the streets of Melbourne, killing, screwing, and taking drugs. They decide to carry out a heist, stealing $3 million and attracting the attention of various psychotics. Bloodlust. Body Puzzle. Slasher horror. A homicide detective realizes that the brutal murders committed by a mysterious serial killer he's after has something to do with the late husband of a beautiful widow. Body Puzzle. Bram Stoker's Dracula, a classic. The centuries-old vampire Count Dracula comes to England to seduce his barrister Jonathan Harker's fiancée Mina Murray and inflict havoc in the foreign land. Dracula. Bride of Killer Nerd. Harold Kunkel has moved to a new city after the unfortunate incident in Killer Nerd. At a nearby high school, a nerd girl is having similar problems. Lots of killing in this movie. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Flighty teenage girl Buffy Summers learns that she is her generation's destined battler of vampires, featuring Christy Swanson, Donald Sutherland, Pee Wee Herman, and Luke Perry. Candyman. The Candyman, a murderous soul with a hook for a hand, is accidentally summoned to reality by a skeptic grad student researching the monster's myth. Candyman. Supernatural and psychological horror. Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice. A journalist and his son travel to Nebraska to investigate the mysterious town of Gatlin, where unbeknownst to them, a murderous cult of children are still waiting in the cornfields. Children of the Corn 2. Critters 4. After being cryogenically frozen and waking up into a space station in the near future, the critters aim to have the unwitting crew for lunch. Lunch, anyone? Curse, Death, and Spirit. This is a series of 3 short supernatural-themed movies. The first tells the story of a teenage girl. While in the woods, one of the children meets a ghost, and the last movie tells the story of 3 teenagers who go on vacation. Dance Macabre. A dance instructor brings his dance troupe to Russia for training. What his dancers don't know, however, is that he has a dual personality, and his hidden personality is a serial killer. Dance Macabre. Dangerous Seductress. The evil queen returns to possess an American girl who she orders to go out and claim victims to sate her bloodlust. Dangerous Seductress. Action, fantasy, horror, and mystery. Dark Harvest. A broken down band strands a group of college students in the middle of the desert. Forced to hike their way out, they unwittingly enter a sacred Indian burial ground, a place they should have left alone. Dark Harvest. Dead Alive. A young man's mother is bitten by a Sumatran, a rat monkey. She gets sick and dies, at which time she comes back to life, killing and eating dogs and cats. Dead Alive. This movie is creepy. Dr. Giggles. A madman who believes he's doctor comes to town where his crazy father was killed, and soon begins murdering people and becoming infatuated with a teenage girl who has a heart condition. Dr. Giggles. Dust Devil. A woman on the run from her abusive husband encounters a mysterious hitchhiker. Slasher horror, mystery, and thriller. Dust Devil with Robert John Burke, Chelsea Field, and Zach Mulcahy. Evil Dead Trap 2. A female projectionist suddenly comes to the self-realization that she just in fact may be a serial killer. Drama, horror, mystery, and thriller. Evil Dead Trap 2. Evil Tunes. Bert has a cleaning company and hires 4 women to clean an isolated house. They find an old book, a dagger, and a soul shred, and when one of them, Megan, reads an incantation, she unleashes an evil beyond this world. Fool's Fire. A crippled dwarf is forced to become jester to a tyrannical king, but when the king abuses a beautiful dwarf, with whom the jester is in love with, the jester plots terrible revenge. Frankenstein. Dr. Victor von Frankenstein creates his creature, who escapes into the countryside to find that humanity has only pain and sorrow for him. Drama, horror, sci-fi, and thriller. Frankenstein. Ghost Watch. In a live broadcast on Halloween night, a BBC team investigates a reported poltergeist in an ordinary London home. Drama, horror, mystery, and thriller. Ghost Watch. Godzilla and Mothra, the battle for Earth. Japan is caught in the middle of a 3-way battle between Godzilla, the divine Mothra, and her dark counterpart, Batra. Godzilla and Mothra, the Battle of Earth. Happy Hell Night. A fraternity hazing prank goes terribly wrong, and a psychotic killer is set loose. Now a relentless evil has been unleashed, and the Coens of Winfield College will face the bloody horror of Happy Hell Night. Hellmaster. A psychotic college professor uses unwitting students as laboratory rats, injecting them with a drug that mutates them into gory killers. Horror and thriller. Hellmaster. Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth. An investigative reporter must send the newly unbound Pinhead and his legions back to hell. Terry Farrell, Doug Bradley, Kevin Bernhardt. Hellraiser. Hellspawn. Mick and Jack are asked to house sit for a relative in a small town. They soon realize that there is a mysterious killer and grave robber plaguing the town, and they might be just the next target. Hellspawn. House 4. Roger Cobb is killed in a car accident. His family must move into the house that has haunted him for several years. Soon the family begins to experience scary and unexplained phenomena. Fantasy, horror, and thriller. House 4. Humanoids from Atlantis. Filmmaker Ken Adams has received financing for his first documentary on a local lake. Unfortunately, the assignment will put him and his partner Julie on a collision course with a monster. Humanoid from Atlantis. Innocent Blood. Mary is a vampire with a thirst for bad guys. When she fails to properly dispose of one of her victims, a violent mob boss, she bites off more than she can chew It faces a new immortal danger. Intruders. All over the world, people report being visited by aliens, taken aboard spaceships, and clinically examined. Authorities seem to know all about these visitations, but will not admit publicly. Intruders. The Lawnmower Man. A simple man is turned into a genius through the application of computer science. Jeff Fahey, Pierce Brosnan, The Lawnmower Man. This movie is good. It's a cyberpunk, horror, and thriller. Mad at the Moon. A young woman on the frontier marries a meek farmer who has an annoying habit of going through a rather drastic change every full moon. Mary Stuart Masterson, Harry Bachner, Mad at the Moon. Mikey. A seemingly sweet and innocent little boy causes murder and mayhem in his new neighborhood and falls for the teenage girl next door. Mikey, featuring Brian Bonsall from the Family Times. A young man arrives at his father's mansion in Louisiana to discover that a secretive cult is using winged creatures to raise the dead to do their bidding. This is the Netherworld. Very good. Ninja Zombie. Archaeologist Orlin seeks martial artist Jack's help against cult threatening him after dig. Ninja Zombies. So these are zombies that know ninja and kill people. Gate to the Trespassers. 14 summons forth a diminutive demonic minion from the other side to do their bidding and grant their wishes. But of course they must ultimately pay the price. Pet Sematary 2. A teenage boy and his father move to his recently deceased mother's hometown, where they encounter the ancient Native American cemetery with the power to raise the dead. Pet Sematary 2 is creepy, spooky, and good. Scanner Cop. Sam, a rookie cop with the Los Angeles Police Department, is also a scanner. When a string of murders begins to decimate the police department, Sam faces sensory overload and possible insanity. Scanner Cop. Horror and sci-fi. Waxwork 2 Lost in Time. In this sequel, a couple must use a portal through time to defeat evil. Parody, satire, slapstick, time travel, horror, and thriller. Psycho Pike. Toxins in a lake drive a big pike crazy and suddenly begins to attack and devour cottagers. Psycho Pike. Basically about a killer fish. Pumpkinhead 2 Bloodwing. Three thrill-seeking teenagers resurrect a demon from his grave, and a bloody rampage for revenge begins. I love revenge movies where everybody dies. I love it. Raising Cain. The oncologist wife of a prominent child psychologist suspects her husband has an unhealthy scientific obsession with their child. Slasher horror. Crime drama. Raising Cain. Revenge of Billy the Kid. Farmer impregnates goat. Goat gives birth to mutant offspring. Billy. Farmer's son torments Billy, while daughter sympathizes. Comedy, fantasy, and horror. Scanners 3 The Takeover. A young female scanner turns from a sweet young thing into a murderous power-crazed villain after she takes an experimental drug developed by her father. Action, horror, and sci-fi. Scanners 3 The Takeover. Here we have the Seed People, where they plant seeds and then they attack the people, and it's called the Seed People. I recommend the Seed People. Sleepwalkers. A mother and son team of strange supernatural creatures move to a small town to seek out a young virgin to feed on. Sleepwalkers. Fantasy, horror, and thriller. Spellcaster. A group of contestants travel to a castle in Italy to participate in a $1 million treasure hunt hidden on the premises. Little do they know the lord of the castle hides a deadly secret. Spellcaster. Star Time. A delusional misfit becomes suicidal when his favorite TV show is cancelled. An agent promises to make him a TV star if he kills certain people, so he becomes the baby mask killer. Star Time. Stepfather 3. That psycho stepfather has escaped from the insane asylum and had his face surgically altered. Now he's married again, this time to a woman with a child in a wheelchair. He goes on a killing spree once again. Tale of a Vampire. Condemned to life without end, and to an undying passion for a lost love he can never find, a vampire stalks a beautiful young woman. B horror, vampire horror, and drama. Tale of a Vampire. Tetsuo 2 Body Hammer. When metal-worshipping fanatics abduct his son, a father unleashes his dormant destructive powers. Drama, fantasy, horror, and sci-fi. Tetsuo 2 Body Hammer. The Johnsons. According to an ancient Indian tale, a giant monster embryo residing in a crystal vase is predetermined to fertilize a blue-eyed woman. The Johnsons. Horror. Featuring Monique Van de Ven. The Cat. An adaptation of the novel Old Cat. A cat from outer space teams up with a young alien girl and her knight, along with an adventure novelist named Wisely, to fight a murderous alien. The Dollhouse Murders. While staying at her Aunt Claire's country home, Amy Trelolard discovers a dollhouse with a secret only dolls know. The Dollhouse Murders. The Vagrant. A businessman buys a house, but he has a hard time trying to get rid of its previous tenant, a dirty bum. The Vagrant. Dark comedy, horror, and thriller. There's nothing out there. When a horror film buff tries to warn his friends spending spring break in a house in the woods of impending danger, they scoff at him. That is, until a huge mutant frog starts to pick them off one by one. The Turn of the Screw. Soon after settling into her new role as governess at the faraway and well-appointed Billy House, Jenny begins to suspect that her young charges, Flora and Miles, have something imaginably sinister. The Unnameable 2, the statement of Randolph Carter. A creature of demonic nature, too hideous to have a name, once again terrorizes the college kids that summoned it. The Unnameable 2. Winter Beast. People are being killed off near a popular mountain lodge, when a legend claiming that the mountain is haunted by a deadly Native American demonic curse. Winter Beast. Action, drama, fantasy, and horror. And lastly, we have Witchcraft 4, The Virgin Heart. Rock musicians are selling their souls to the devil for fame and fortune. An attorney with magical powers attempts to stop it. Witchcraft 4, The Virgin Heart. Those are the best horror films that came out in the year 1992. What were some of your favorite horror films that year that you remember that were on this list? If by some odd chance there's a film or two that I did not have in this list of the best horror films of 92, by all means leave that title below and we'll revisit that title at another video. Alright, so what do you think about the year 1992? It's cranking along. These are the best horror films of the 90s. Stay tuned for the best horror films of 1993. Thanks for watching. I'm Tony, and I'll see you all in the next video.